Okay, good morning all of you. Chalo, nice. So last session we did finish off with reproductive health, an important topic. Very soon the test coming up on that. And today move into another very crucial aspect of the human body. We talk about human nutrition, that is the digestive system in detail. So what exactly is nutrition all about? So nutrition consists of 5 steps. 5 steps का एक process है, namely ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. So once again, which are the 5 steps? Ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. Ingestion is the process in which food is taken inside the body. This ingested food is then digested. You take food and you put it into your mouth and you start chewing that food. The process of chewing is scientifically called as mastication. So you chew the food, that is called as mastication. Teeth and tongue mix the food with saliva and the saliva converts the food into a rounded ball which is called as a bolus. And that bolus with the tongue we swallow it. Swallowing is scientifically called as deglutition. So you have deglutition or swallowing. So we take food, chew it, which is called as mastication. The food becomes a bolus and then we swallow it, which is called as deglutition. This is collectively called as ingestion. After that, the food goes into your stomach and intestine where it undergoes digestion. In digestion, complex, non-diffusible and non-absorbable food is converted into simple, diffusible and absorbable food by enzymes. तो सर हम लोग जो खाना खाते हैं is complex and it is non-absorbable. And once it goes into our intestine and stomach, lots of digestive enzymes are given out. The enzymes break down the complex food into simple food, non-absorbable food into absorbable food, and that process by which enzymes convert complex and non-absorbable into simple and absorbable substances is a process called as digestion. Then we have absorption. Absorption is a process in which simple food or simple substances diffuse into the blood and the absorbed food is now carried to each and every tissue cell of the body where then it undergoes assimilation. So sir, after digestion, through our intestine, blood vessels absorb the food and take the food to each and every cell of our body, and that process of removing it from the intestine and transporting it to cells of our body with the help of blood is called as absorption. Then this absorbed food undergoes assimilation. In assimilation, the process by which protoplasm is synthesized into each cell of the body by using simple food substances. When food enters the cell के अंदर cell organelles use this food and convert substances. तो सुना है ribosomes convert amino acids into proteins. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum converts fatty acids and glycerol into steroids, fats, and mitochondria utilize glucose and convert it into ATP. तो सर जो भी एब्जॉर्ब फूड है उसका प्रोटीन बनता है, फैट बनता है, एटीपी बनता है, एंड दैट फिनोमिनन इज कॉल्ड एज assimilation. And whatever food does not get digested or does not get absorbed, that will now pass into as an indigestible remain. It will pass from the alimentary canal out of the body. So we will pass out all the waste in the form of feces. Fecal matter के फॉर्म में ये बाहर चला जाता है, and that process is called as defecation, also called as evacuation, also called as egestion. So removal of stools is called as defecation or evacuation or egestion takes place, and that is the way food has undergone ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion, and this is the mainstay of nutrition. Sir, what does your digestive system look like? So this is your digestive system. Of course, आपने स्कूल में भी पढ़ा है. So sir, what does the digestive system consist of? The human digestive system consists of the alimentary canal and accessory glands. So there is a canal right from the mouth to the anus, which is called as the alimentary canal, and there are supporting glands which produce enzymes that help in digestion. The alimentary canal all starts with mouth. ये है हमारे lips और उसमें से mouth आ जाता है. So mouth is the first part of the alimentary canal. Then food goes inside your mouth into your buccal cavity. Buccal cavity says from your lips, mouth, food goes inside buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is bound above by palate. तो हम लोग टंग जब रोल करते हैं, the hard part which we feel above is called as the palate. Then we have the tongue and we have teeth. Teeth and tongue help in the process of mastication and convert the food into a bolus, and that is in your buccal cavity. Then the tongue pushes the food down, and from the buccal cavity food will go into your pharynx. Pharynx consists of three parts. Vishal sir just taught you that in respiration there is nasopharynx, there is oropharynx, and there is laryngopharynx. Nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. And via pharynx, food will then enter into the esophagus. Esophagus, also called as your food pipe. From the esophagus, food will now enter the stomach. And the stomach consists of three parts, namely cardiac stomach, fundus stomach, and pylorus stomach. So you have cardiac stomach, fundus stomach, and pylorus stomach. Stomach के तीन part करेंगे हम लोग डिटेल में. From the stomach, food goes into the small intestine. Small intestine consists of three parts, namely duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Duodenum, jejunum, and ileum are the parts of the small intestine. Then the food passes into the large intestine, and waste passes in the large intestine, which is cecum, colon, and rectum. So three parts of large intestine: cecum, colon, and rectum. And from the rectum, food passes into the anus and is egested out of the body. So once again, alimentary canal starts with the mouth. From mouth, the food goes into the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity above has the palate. On the sides are the teeth, and below is the tongue. From where it goes into the pharynx. Pharynx consists of nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Then it goes into the esophagus. From esophagus it goes into the stomach, cardiac, fundus, and pylorus. From there it goes into small intestine, duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. From there it goes in the large intestine, cecum, colon and rectum, from where it passes into the anus and is egested out of the body. And along with the alimentary canal, there are accessory glands, which produce enzymes that help in digestion of food. To start with, we have salivary glands. Salivary glands produce saliva. You have 3 pairs of salivary glands: parotid glands, sublingual glands and submandibular glands. Just in front of the ears are 2 large glands which are called as parotid glands. Then just under the tongue roll करके ऐसे करो आप, saliva बाहर निकलेगा. That is sublingual gland. Just under the tongue, sublingual gland. And under the mandible or the lower jaw, we have glands called as submandibular glands. So we have parotid gland, sublingual gland and submandibular gland. And then we have the pancreas, which will help in secreting digestive enzymes. And the liver, which I'm sure you all have heard of it, produces bile, and bile helps in digestion. So this is your entire human digestive system. Chaliye, let's start with the digestive system. So we have सबसे पहले the mouth. Mouth is the uppermost transverse slit-like opening of the alimentary canal. Mouth is a slit-like opening, a slit, and it is bounded by 2 fleshy lips. Mouth is bounded by 2 fleshy lips, and it leads to a larger cavity called as the oral cavity, which is also called the buccal cavity. Mouth leads to the oral cavity, also called as the buccal cavity. The mouth के बाद food will enter the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity is the last space bounded above by the palate, on the sides by the jaws which have teeth, and below by the throat which supports the tongue. So last space which is bounded above by the palate. So if you see the open mouth, here mouth खुला रखा है, above we have palate, and sir अगर आप tongue ऊपर roll करो, here we have palate which is called hard palate, bony है, and as we go behind, it arches up and becomes soft and is called as the soft palate. ये है soft palate, and पीछे एक ball जैसा structure दिखाई देता है. बचपन में हम लोग जब मिरर में देखते थे, we always used to wonder what that ball-like structure is. That ball-like structure is called as the uvula. U-V-U-L-A. Uvula is that ball-like structure. They form the roof of the buccal cavity. So we have hard palate, we have soft palate, and we have uvula, which form the roof of the buccal cavity. On the sides are found the jaws having them teeth, and we have 2 jaws, namely, 2 jaws होते हैं, namely, we have the upper jaw, which is called as the maxillae, and the lower jaw, which is called as the mandible. The upper jaw called as the maxilla, the lower jaw is called as the mandible. Maxillae and mandible, which have teeth with them, they form the sides of the buccal cavity. And the lower side is supported by the throat, which has the tongue attached to it. So roof is the palate, sides are mandible and maxilla with teeth, and below we have throat with the tongue attached to it. And it is lined by squamous epithelium and mucous membrane. Sir, what is the membrane inside? This membrane is called as the mucous membrane, which gives out mucus, and kind of epithelium is squamous epithelium. Squamous epithelium, I'm sure you heard of it, skin also has squamous epithelium, which are flat cells attached to each other like tiles on a floor. तो फ्लोर के ऊपर टाइल्स होती है, ऐसे होते हैं squamous cells which are attached to each other, and that epithelium is called as squamous epithelium. And then we have the tongue. The tongue is a thick, muscular, protrusible organ. Thick, muscular, and protrusible organ. The tongue is attached to the floor of the buccal cavity by a fold of mucous membrane called the lingual frenulum. Sir, tongue, अगर हम roll करें and we feel the base of the tongue, तो एक ridge होता है, that ridge is called as the lingual frenulum. तो ये टंग के नीचे ऐसे एक सपोर्टिंग रिज ऑफ टिश्यू है. This tissue is called as the lingual frenulum. What is that tissue called as? Lingual frenulum. And it is also attached to bones, namely the styloid process and hyoid bone. आपका टंग एक बोन को अटैच होता है, which is here, quite below in the neck. So sir, tongue starts from this bone here and protrudes out. So it's a long tongue that we have. काफी लंबी होती है tongue, attached to a bone which is called as the hyoid bone. Hyoid bone is a single bone in the neck region. It is the only bone in the human body which does not form a joint with any other bone. तो सर, हायोइड बोन किसी और बोन के साथ एक जॉइंट क्रिएट नहीं करता है. इट इज अ जॉइंटलेस बोन and is the only bone in the body which does not form a joint with any other bone, and is a single bone which supports the tongue. And behind there are styloid processes. Sir, ये है आपका skull. skull के अंदर पीछे होता है एक bone which is called as the occipital bone. तो ये occipital bone है, and this is the occipital bone. And occipital bone में से दो projections बाहर आते हैं, which are called as styloid processes. And styloid processes में से tissues बाहर आते हैं, tissues which are attached to the tongue. So tongue को दो supports है, पीछे है occipital bone. Occipital bone में से बाहर आते हैं styloid process, and styloid processes by tissues are connected to the tongue, and the hyoid bone is also attached to your tongue. And then we have the upper surface of the tongue shows numerous raised projections which are called as papillae. तो सर, अगर tongue को हम protrude करें एक mirror के सामने and we take a mouth cleaner and clean the tongue, you will find the surface of the tongue is not smooth. It has many ridges. तो tongue smooth नहीं होती है. It has got ridges all over it, and this is the ridged tongue, and those ridges are called as papillae. तो tongue के ridges को papillae कहते हैं. The papillae have in them sensory receptors for taste, which are called as gustatory receptors. तो टंग के ऊपर टेस्ट रिसेप्टर्स होते हैं, which are called as gustatory receptors. At the tip of the tongue, we have gustatory receptors for sweet and salty. On the sides of the tongue, we have receptors for on the tip we have it for sweet. On the tip we have receptors for sweet. On the tip, sweet and salty. On the sides there are receptors for sour, khatta khatta sour. And on the back side we have gustatory receptors for bitter, pungent, spicy flavor. तो इसीलिए हम लोग जब कुछ मीठा खाते हैं, we can feel it on the tip of the tongue. Something salty on the tip of the tongue. Something खट्टा खट्टा नींबू जूस पिया तो on the sides we feel the sourness. कुछ पाव भाजी गरम मसाले के साथ, मिर्च के साथ खाएगा on the backside you feel it's spicy and the pungent flavor is there. So those are specific receptors which are called as gustatory receptors. And then, so what are the uses of the tongue? Tongue helps in tasting the food with the help of gustatory receptor. It mixes the food with saliva, which is along with teeth, which is called as mastication. And then the tongue helps in swallowing, which is called as deglutition. Tongue swallows the food, which is called as deglutition. And from the buccal cavity, food will now pass into the pharynx. But before that, let's talk about the teeth. Teeth are present both in the upper and the lower jaw. Upper jaw, we remember, called as maxillae, lower jaw called mandible. दोनों में teeth होते हैं. The following terminologies describe the teeth. Teeth are called as thecodont, they are called heterodont, and they are called diphyodont. Teeth terms है thecodont, heterodont, and diphyodont. The tooth is fitted into sockets of jaw. सर आपके मैंडिबुलर मैक्सिला में tooth सॉकेट के अंदर होता है. अगर आपका दांत निकल जाता है तो अंदर एक डिप्रेशन, एक सॉकेट होता है. सॉकेट में से tooth बाहर आ गया. So where is the tooth fitted into sockets? And tooth fitting into sockets is scientifically called as thecodontis. We have different types of teeth. Having different types of teeth is called as heterodontis. So which are the different types of teeth? I'm sure you have heard of it. In the front we have incisors. ये front में कौन से है? Incisors. Just behind incisors we have pointed teeth which are called as canines. The pointed ones are called canines. Behind it we have flat teeth which are called as premolars, और उसके भी पीछे वापस flat teeth which are called as molars. So we have incisors, canines, premolars and molars, and ये चारों दांत अलग-अलग फंक्शन करते हैं. Incisors are chisel shaped, ये chisel shaped, and they are for biting, cutting, gnawing. So sir, when you take an apple and you bite it, or if you take a sugar cane and you bite it, so sir, that biting is done with the help of your incisors, which are for biting, cutting, etc. Then we have canines, which are pointed, used for ripping and shredding. तो सर समझो आप चिकन लेते हो, फ्लैश लेते हो, या आपने शुगर केन का डंडा लिया है, you use your canine for tearing, ripping apart or tearing. So that is done by canine. So incisors are for cutting, tearing is done by canine. And then we have premolars and molars, which is for grinding. तो एक बार फूड हमने खाया, बाद में ग्राइंडिंग जो करते हैं, mastication जो एक्चुअली किया जाता है, that is done with the help of premolars and molars. So premolars and molars help in actual chewing, which is called as grinding process. And then we have diphyodontis. So sir, having four types of teeth, what was that called as? Heterodontis. And we have diphyodontis. Teeth appear twice during your lifetime. जब बच्चा जब पैदा होता है, उसके तो दांत ही नहीं होते हैं. बाद में at around 1 year of age, cute से incisors बाहर आते हैं. And he has only 2 teeth, look so cute. Then come canine, and then directly come molar. Premolar बच्चे में होते ही नहीं है. So as a matter of fact, what do they have? They have 2 incisors on one side. तो सर समझो upper jaw right side, upper jaw right side, the child has 2 incisors. 2 इसके incisors होते हैं, एक होता है canine, and there are no premolars and there are 2 molars. So you have 2 incisors, 1 canine, no premolar and 2 molar. So sir, total upper jaw right side कितने teeth हो गए? 2 incisors, 1 canine, no premolar and 2 molar. So 5 teeth on the right side. Similarly, 5 teeth on the left side. 5 on the right side, 5 on the left side in the maxilla. Similarly, 5 on the right side, 5 on the left side in the mandible. So total 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, a total of 20 teeth are there, and these 20 teeth are called as milk teeth. Milk teeth also called as deciduous teeth. Milk teeth को क्या कहते हैं? Deciduous teeth. And then those teeth fall off and the बच्चे को नए दांत आते हैं and he gets adult teeth. As adult teeth again 2 incisors आते हैं, 1 canine आता है and then 2 premolars आते हैं and 3 molar आते हैं. So you have 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars and 3 molars. By the way, 2 premolars नए आए and 2 molars and the third molar. I hope you have heard of it. Third molar is called as your wisdom tooth. It comes when you are around 13 to 16 years of age, and that is when you are growing up. So it's rightly called as your wisdom tooth. So total कितने दांत आ गए सर आपके? 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars and 3 molars. 2 incisor, 1 canine, 2 premolar and 3 molar. 2 plus 1 3 plus 2 5 plus 3 8, a total of 8 teeth in the upper jaw right side. So 8 twos are 16, 16 twos are 32. 8 8 8 8, a total of 8 twos are 16, 16 twos are 32 teeth are your permanent teeth, also called as your adult teeth. So sir, what are we called as the diffeodonty, because teeth are appearing twice in your life. Nice question for you, which is the only tooth which is monodontous? It is not diffeodontous, it is monodontous, only once in a lifetime. Your premolars. Premolars do not appear twice, they appear only once in life. So premolars are monodontous, all other teeth are diffeodontous. And then sir, if we see the structure of a tooth, सर एक tooth को अगर हम लोग ध्यान से देखें तो सर a cut section of a tooth shows an upper shiny part which is called as the enamel of the tooth. The upper shiny part is called as the enamel. Hey, I hope you remember I taught you this in reproduction. Fate of 3 germinal layers. Enamel develops from the ectoderm. याद है ये? Enamel develops from ectoderm. And under the enamel is the bony part which fits into sockets, and that is called as the dentine. So that is called as dentine. तो ये है dentine. So what is the upper shiny part which we brush every morning called as enamel? And what is the bony part inside called as dentine? Please remember all of you, enamel of your tooth is the hardest substance of the entire human body. More hard than the bones of your body is the enamel of your tooth, which is the hardest. And when does enamel develop from the ectoderm? When does dentine develop from the mesoderm? And not given in your book, I would want you all to remember this. The enamel develops from cells which are called as amyloblasts. तो amyloblasts से enamel बनता है, and dentine develops from cells which are called as odontoblasts. So odontoblasts से dentine बनता है. Amyloblasts form the enamel and odontoblasts form the dentine. And within the dentine is a small space which is called as the pulp cavity. So this is the pulp cavity. So your bone is actually hollow inside. अंदर वो hollow है, उसमें एक cavity है which is called as the pulp cavity. In the pulp cavity there are lots of blood vessels and nerves. Nerves and blood vessels है आपके इस cavity में, इसे pulp cavity कहते हैं. So pulp cavity is full of blood vessels and nerves. So this is the pulp cavity which is full of blood vessels and nerves in it. And the upper shiny part of the tooth is called as the crown. So enamel is specifically called the crown. And then we have the neck region, jahan we have the gums. The gums also called as the gingiva. The gingiva or the gums part is called as the neck. And the tooth, when it fits in the socket is called as the root. So tooth fits into the socket, what is that called as the root? So we have shiny part called crown, gums jahan hote called the neck, and tooth is fitting in the socket, that socket part is called as the root. This is the structure of a tooth. So what is the upper shiny part called as the enamel? What is the bony part called as the dentine? Or dentine के बीचों बीच, what is the empty space called the pulp cavity? What does pulp cavity contain in it? Blood vessels and nerves. So that is the way you have teeth inside your mouth. And then we have third, teeth help to chew the food, and then we talked about this already. Then the food enters into the pharynx. So where does the food enter into the pharynx? And pharynx में food enter होता है. And sir, how will it pass in the pharynx? Pharynx में it will pass like this, sir. Sir, when air enters in through your nasal aperture, through your nostrils, air will enter into the pharynx, which is called the nasopharynx. So ये हवा कहाँ गई sir? Nasopharynx. And from nasopharynx, air will enter down into another pharynx, which is called as the oropharynx. So ये कौन सा pharynx है? Nasopharynx. ये कौन सा pharynx है? Oropharynx. And sir, when you take a food and put it in your mouth, tongue and teeth help to make it into a bolus, and this bolus is pressed. So it will press, will hit the hard palate, the soft palate, and food will then put pressure on the uvula, and the uvula will go behind. Uvula पीछे चला जाएगा, so food cannot enter into the nasopharynx, and food will enter only into the oropharynx. So we always wonder what is that ball-like uvula for? Sir, हम तो चलो ऐसे दो पैर पे खड़े हैं, but animal which is quadrupedal is chewing food and it swallows food. Food may go from mouth into nose. So how to prevent it from going from mouth into nose? That ball-like structure called uvula is pushed by the bolus of the food, and the uvula will close the nasopharynx. Uvula closes the nasopharynx, and food will straight go down into the oropharynx. So who prevents regurgitation of food from oropharynx into nasopharynx? The uvula. And where will food enter into the oropharynx? From oropharynx, the food will now go into the laryngopharynx. तो ये है nasopharynx, ये है oropharynx, और ये है laryngopharynx. And from laryngopharynx, food can enter either into food pipe, esophagus, or into the windpipe, which is the trachea. And we have covering of the trachea and opening of the esophagus. opening of the trachea is called as glottis. And opening of the esophagus is called the gullet. So, sir, where would food go? It would go via glottis into trachea or via gullet into esophagus. Of course, we don't want the food to go from laryngopharynx into the air passage into trachea. Nahi jana chahiye. So, sir, we have, you all have heard of it, a distinct cartilage which is called as the epiglottis. And as soon as food enters into the laryngopharynx, the epiglottis will shut down. It will fall down and cover the glottis. So epiglottis will cover the glottis. Epiglottis will cover the glottis, and food cannot possibly enter into the trachea. So food will enter into the gullet and via gullet pass down into the esophagus. So this is the way food will pass. So sir, what is this pharynx here through which air is passing called as the nasopharynx? Where is food passing into the oropharynx? Jugula closes the nasopharynx. Food then goes into the Sorry all of you. Yeah. Food passes from the oropharynx into the laryngopharynx. From laryngopharynx, it does not enter into the glottis because epiglottis covers the glottis, and food will enter into the gullet and via gullet go down into the esophagus. So this is the way we have the process of swallowing taking place. When the food enters now, the food will enter into your esophagus. So food enters into your esophagus. The esophagus is 25 centimeters long, narrow muscular tube connecting the pharynx to the stomach. So sir, esophagus 25 centimeters long hota hai. It connects the pharynx to your stomach, and it is lined by stratified squamous epithelium containing mucus glands. So esophagus में कौन सा lining है? Squamous epithelium. But it is not simple squamous, it is stratified squamous. What do you mean by stratified squamous? Squamous epithelium is one layer of cells. Stratified squamous is a layer के ऊपर another layer, के ऊपर another layer, के ऊपर another layer. Multiple layers are called as stratified squamous epithelium. So that is called as stratified squamous epithelium, and it has mucus glands which give mucus and lubricate the food as the bolus starts passing down. And food moves through esophagus due to rhythmic contractions of longitudinal and circular muscles, and this movement is called as peristalsis. आपके esophagus में there are longitudinal muscles and there are circular muscles. So entire esophagus has longitudinal muscles and circular muscles, and it is these longitudinal muscles which will move up and down. Circular muscles will move in and out, and that will help in the rhythmic movement of the food downward, and that rhythmic movement is scientifically called as peristalsis. So sir, contraction हुआ, food goes down, contraction हुआ, food goes down, and that continuous rhythmic movement is called as peristalsis. By peristalsis, food enters from the esophagus into the stomach. We'll just take a small break here, and I'll return back and we'll go into the next part of the digestive system.